Alright, so for this episode, we're going to do something that we've never really done before, and as you can tell by what I'm doing right now, we're doing a nether dig here instead of an overworld one. This is something we need to do at some point just because we've done the multiple overworld ones, so we're going to do something in the nether as well. But yeah, this one's going to be a bit different than something that I think should be done this way. Obviously, you can do this really easily anywhere in the nether. For us, we're going to do a bit of an AutoCraft spice to it, so we do everything stupid here. Everything is just way more over the top than it needs to be. So we're gonna do a full scale dig for this, and some of you may know if you've been watching the streams, but if you don't, then this is going to be our honey bottle and honeycomb farm area. Now, why we're doing this in the dig is because we only need 3x3 chunks for the farms. And then hopefully once I do the storage for this, we'll only need 3x3 chunks for that as well. So that means we can all fit it under one chunk loader. Now, if you're really good at telling this is not 3x3 chunks in length at all, it's actually quite big because this full schematic is basically 128 blocks this way, and then like 257 or some blocks this way. That's just because of what we're actually digging out here. Now, it's not like we're not fully digging out. You can see they're kind of doing like a shape here. If I turn the schematic on, you can see that here it's going to be a honey bottle. Here is going to be a bee. And then here is going to be the honeycomb. So each farm will have its own pixel art dig based off around that. You can see that we're working on the honey one here first. Technically, we should be working on the honeycomb one because we're going to need a lot of hives, but there's really no reason not to do them all at the same time. So we're going to do something a little bit different. So basically the B one in the center is going to be the storage for the both farms on the wings. We'll just funnel those drops to that sort amount, but probably a box sorter maybe. Or I don't even need to do that because they're on separate sides. So we'll probably just have them separate wings of storage for each one there. And then we can go from there. But yeah, we can dig this out a lot. I've been doing this a little bit on stream. But there's obviously going to be a lot more of this to be done. At the time of recording, I do have a really long stream that will be happening on Saturday, so we should get a lot of this work done. I don't know if for my sanity I could keep digging for however long the stream ends up being, but we'll get a good amount of work done for this, that's for sure. Let's continue with the digging, and then we can come back once we have a bit more progress. If I forget and we come back and the full dig is done, you know why, because I was in the middle of the stream. Alright, so more time has passed, and for the bee farm project that we're working on, we have one of the spots for the farm completely dug out and decorated up. So we have the honeycomb on the roof here and the floor, and then the black concrete walls to basically make it look like you're inside a giant honeycomb. And we're going to do the same for the bee one over here, which as soon as I do the roof, but has the walls and everything like that all filled in. And then it's the same for the honey bottle. We have do the roof as well. We have the floor and the walls all filled in, and from the map view, it does look really clean. And with the black walls, it gives it kind of like a border effect to it, so it looks a bit more clean. The edges over here we'll probably try to clean up if we can. It just looks a little bit weird with the white concrete. We could just probably put like a thing of black over top of that, and then make it look a little bit better. But yeah, all in all, I still love how this area turned out, and we're not even done. We still need to do the farms, the storage, and all that kind of things, so we still have plenty of work ahead of us, but it's still turning out really good, and way better than I thought, especially for the bee here. The bee I thought would be the worst one, but that one actually kind of looks really good. Honeycomb's the simplest one, and then the bottle, which, you know, the honeycomb farm here, and the honey bottle farm here, which is the whole reason why we did this. But yeah, it's about 2.6 million blocks in total in volume. That's not actually how much we cleared, because obviously the nether, it's a bit weird. You have a lot of open area and stuff like that, but one of them was actually really solid the whole way through. So I think it was the B here. There wasn't really much open area in this one. But yeah, still a lot of blocks removed, and we're still have to go build all the farms and the storage. We'll probably start with the storage first, just so that we can have that, because we need to get a bunch of honeycomb for the honey farm and stuff like that. So we got to do a whole process here, but we will get it done. We have a lot of beehives from the farm and the tree farm perimeter, so I think we have a good amount. We're going to need to run it more though, because we still need to combine the ones with 2 bees to get them to 3 bees, and then we can go from there basically. So yeah, let's get on to that. Alright, so the next thing we're going to need to do for this project is we're going to need to do a piston bolt. And what I'd like to do in the other hub is I'd like to basically get a banner that sort of signifies what bolt you're taking to. That way you don't have to put a sign there that people would have to read. I feel like the banners for our use case is definitely a little bit easier to identify what goes to where, because we don't have a system that selects the bolt for you, which I was debating upgrading to, but just how many bolts we have, it would be such a pain to do, and just really doesn't make a difference with our current nether hub layout. If we were to do redesign the whole nether hub, that's just completely out of the question. There's so many bolts that we would have to redo that I just don't want to happen. So basically, we're just going to keep our regular current piston bolt network with the nether hub. I know there's better designs, but for our use case, it worked perfectly fine, and a little bit of different functionality, but all in all, it gets us from point A to point B, and doesn't require any inputs, which is all I really care about. That way I can just hop in the minecart and get to my destination with one click of a button. Basically, these are the banners that I found. It's definitely not my design. I am not very good at designing my own banners, so basically I look for other people that do it better, and then I basically just, follow the patterns and stuff I do with the loom over here, because that is whenever they added the villagers, that update. So we have to use that loom instead of the crafting table, but it does make it a lot easier to know what we need to do, and then it is cheaper with the amount of dye. So yeah, I have these bee faces here, very easily to signify that we are going to the bee farming area, which we need to finish. So yeah, basically what we're going to do now is we have to make the piston bolt. Once we get that made, and then start working on the actual farms themselves. The area is cleared out, that's all that matters. My nether rec did go up quite a bit, so we're at almost 1.6 million, which is pretty good. And yeah, so let's go get this piston bolt built up, and then we'll head to the area. Alright, so people would say, why do we use piston bolts? I get this question all the time. Piston bolts, like I said, just the ease of use case. We don't have to hold W the whole way down if we use ice boats like we would have to do with that. And soul sand, same thing with soul speed, same difference, but this one, yes, it is more expensive because we do use piston and a repeater per block. Honestly, redstone isn't really an issue for us. We use so much of it, so if we have to do a piston bolt, it's not too big of a deal, not too bad to get, because we have AutoCrafting for pistons as well as repeaters, so it's not too bad even to do that manually by itself, because usually it's only a couple shulkers of the materials for a single piston bolt, depending on the length, obviously, because every block you need basically a piston and a repeater. So yeah, so it's not too bad for us, honestly. It's definitely not early game friendly at all, but it is worth it for us. And this is the piston bolt design that we went with. Basically stick with all of our same piston bolts here, where they just have a simple straight line of blocks. That way it's very easy to do over long distances, and requires minimal effort for those ones entirely. So yeah, we used the bunch of woods. We were going to do the empty beehives here, but unfortunately that takes quite a while for like 4,000 to 5,000 that we would need for this, so we decided against it. And also caused pretty much a good amount of lag, so we then used the yellow concrete here, yellow concrete powder up top, black concrete obviously, and then we have a new addition, which is from the main resource that we get from the quarry. Actually, 2 of them. We got the raw gold because of the new 117 terrain, and with the new change, when we blow up a gold ore or iron ore, any of that nature, you get the raw material instead, which allows us to do this as well, because we originally put honeycomb here, but this gold block, I think definitely signifies it more, and it very much blends in with the glowstone we chose to do as a light source here. So yeah, this is the piston bolt here. It goes down the end. Alright, so we actually built up the full main storage and attached the chunk loaders for this area. And we have the material line, so we need to connect it up to the actual farms and things, but that is something we need to do. Obviously, we still need to do the farms and things like that, but the honey farm itself will take quite some time. The honeycomb farm will be pretty easy because we're only going to do one layer of the same honey farm that we're going to do for the honey bottles, basically. That way, because we get quite a bit more in honeycomb than we would get in bottles, and we will use less honeycomb than we would bottles. So that's why we're doing the full-fledged honey farm compared to the actual small scale-ish. It's still like, you know, a couple stacks of beehives and things like that, but for our use case, it doesn't really matter. But yeah, so Happy and Tox worked on this bee here, and we attached Command Leo's smart box display. As you can see, we have the wrong item type there. So this will actually be our honey bottle storage, and I must have mismatched these when I was doing the schematic here. But that's not too bad at all. So it'll still work. Also need to swap these item frames over here with each other, and then put that over there. But yeah, so very small bee, but it does really get the bee aspect to it. Unfortunately, with these item elevators, it kind of looks a bit weird, but I do have a nice render here. If I remember to put this here, I'll show you the original render of the actual bee that we had designed in Creative. And yeah, so something else that's pretty much hidden as you can't see, because you can see up top, there's a little bit extra area for the back. So what do we have back there? Well, something that we also have here is a honey block crafter here. So we basically input our honey bottles into this chest here, and then those will get sent up and then transported to a shulker box on the loader, where the honey bottles will then go to this crafter over here. And this one would automatically craft us about 1,000 honey blocks per hour, provided we have enough input here. As long as we have that loaded, then that's going to be good for that. So yeah, that works there. This was not my design. I will leave an original creator down below in the description. You want to go check that out. Honey block crafter is still something I need to do. It's something I've stayed away from for quite some time because it is very annoying to work with the items afterwards, because something special about honey block crafting is to use 4 honey bottles. And you also need to have dummy items as well. So what you got to do is you got to input the honey bottles, and then when you craft it at the end, the honey bottles also stay inside of the crafting recipe or the crafting table here. So what you have to do is take out all of those dummy items out, which is 5 items, which substantially lowers the speed of the crafter, and it makes it a little bit harder to do. But yeah, this very compact. Honestly, I would try to make this faster if I could, because of the way it is and stuff like that, but something I'll do at some point at the end. Something I did do is I did redesign my 2x2 block crafter. So my old one had around about 1,000 and a bit slower in speed than this one. This one is a full 4,000 block output per hour here, and that's only with 2 droppers for the actual items. You could increase this by adding 4 droppers for the actual item to basically get all of the items in the table and 2 game ticks. However, you can do 4 droppers with this setup here. If you were to do that and try to get the fastest possible speed, you would need to have a hopper minecart, and that's really complicates things. 4,000 honeycomb blocks per hour is perfectly okay. We don't really need any more. And it's the same principle here, but this one is also a smart crafter as well. I did adapt this. So what we do here is we subtract a single strength from this guy here. So if this one falls below a certain amount, it will turn the crafter off. Now you may say, why don't we have this for the same one over here? Well, because of the way we filled it, we always fill this one first. So this dropper is always filled, and we based it off the second fill level of the second dropper because it's the same item type. It allows it to be a little bit more compact than it would be in another way. So yeah, this one definitely uses some weird mechanics where I push over a composter here that filled up and goes like that. Bit of a weird recipe or sequence here of events, and you can see here this weird timing here because there is an observer behind this block here that powers both of these at once. But it does work. Yes, it is toggle state spam. I don't care. It's still pretty fast, and we'll have a chunk loader. Actually, we have a chunk loader down here that is responsible for if any farm is on or any of these are on, this will keep this loaded. That way none of these crafters will. And here our output is shulker boxes, of course, and those will then get loaded into these and then output in our barrels here. This input here is this is the output for the empty shulker boxes from the boxes we input up here and everything like that. So then on the floor here we have our on and off switches for both farms. We can control that in the UI instead of actually having to go over and over there and over there to the actual farms, which we still need to finish up. And yeah, so we have a pretty good amount of storage here. It's roughly about 2 million in Honeycomb, and then a little bit less because you can only stack honey bottles to 16 compared to the 64 you can for Honeycomb. So there's still a pretty good amount of storage for honey bottles themselves. And then we can also have a pretty good storage here for honey blocks, which is, something we won't really use too much, but it is going to be nice to have this in large quantities if we will need to at some point. But yeah, now we need to build the actual farms, which we'll go do that now, and we'll head over to that. Alright, so we're here at the Honeycomb farm. As you can see, it is only one layer of a farm, but it will still produce a decent amount of honeycomb. Like I said, we're not going to use too much honeycomb. If anything, it would be used as a decoration block, and it's really not something we'll use in fairly large quantities. And it is one of the easier ones to fill up, obviously, because we only have to worry about the dispensers being filled with 9 shears compared to the dispensers over there needed 9 stacks of glass bottles that we'll have to do for that honey farm, which I'm not looking forward to. Well, I guess we have a raid farm. It's still close to 1 million glass bottles, which is quite a lot, especially to transport over here from the raid farm, which is like 2,000 blocks away in another, maybe closer to 3,000 blocks. But yeah, this is definitely not our design. This is Exponential Ideas farm here. It is possible to use the this design with for the honeycomb as well, and they do say that you should pick it on a smaller scale because of the minecart distribution, because it uses hopper chests to basically transport the items. So each one would only be able to fill 27 droppers at once, and honestly, this farm here is still a good couple stacks of hives. As if you imagine, each side here is 32, so we have 64, 128, and 192 hives, which is still fairly decent. It's not too bad at all, and basically we'll produce plenty of honeycomb that we'll ever need. But yeah, so I think go check out Exponential's idea video down in the description below, as this whole farm that we'll be using for the honeycomb farm and the honey farm itself is the same farm, but it is made by them. So if they go visit their channel, you do want to see how this farm operates, because they go into a lot more detail than I would be able to do. And this farm obviously is of course chunk loaded. We still need to actually finish this connection to the main storage. That way we'll actually come over here to turn the farm on. It does usually have safety checks and stuff like that to keep the farm from breaking, because you don't want to have this kind of farm break. Especially for the honey bottle one, that would be a pain to fix if you run out of glass bottles there. So yes, this one has plenty of shears. We can always run this if we need to, and we'll probably run it at some point, but there's no point to run it right now. One farm is done. Yes, it is a smaller version of the farm. However, it is still pretty fast. So yeah, this one's done. Now we'll head over to the actual honey farm itself. So now onto the actual farm you've all been waiting for. This is a full 1,728 beehive / nest honey farm here. Now this thing took quite some time. You can ask Dazzy. I didn't help out too much, unfortunately. Dazzy is a madman with the grindy projects. Like all the time I would come home something and like he would finish the whole thing almost, and it's just like, well, Dazzy's amazing. We all love Dazzy. But yeah, so Dazzy's just crazy. So these farms done really quickly, and it's all mainly thanks to Dazzy. So definitely show Dazzy some love down in the comments, as this world would not be where it is right now without the main grinders. There are some other grinders, of course, but Dazzy is the one that mainly does a lot of these things. So basically, how this farm works is the same concept. We just use honey bottles in the dispensers. instead of shears. That way we get the output as the honey bottle. So something that's also different with this being basically the honeycomb farm version of this is in 1.17, because in this version the honeycomb gets output as one stack with like all 3 of the honeycomb that you get per harvest, compared to in the old versions it would give you random items everywhere. So this collection here would not be 100% reliable in older versions, but in 1.17 they all pop out at once, which is very good for simplicity there. And yeah, so this honestly, you can see at the MSBT there's 1,500 bees here, and we're still sub 40 MSBT, and that's not in a perimeter setting at all. We've only dug out the area required for this and the actual farm. So you actually haven't seen the full decoration here. This is what it looks like. So basically we have the honey bottle, obviously for the honey bottle farm, and then we have the honeycomb for the honeycomb farm, and then in the center we put the bee with the bee storage. So yeah, we could also sometimes, if we wanted to, make a bee breeding area here. That way we could get more bees and beehives if we wanted to at some point. Honestly, it's not too big of an issue. We got the amount of bees we needed for the actual farm itself. We got that all from the tree farm, bee nest farm. So basically that gives us a lot of beehives for this, and that took, even still with that farm, it was still a really fast farm. I would say it took about a couple days of AFK in that farm to get the required amount of beehives. And then we still had to go, because some of the beehives merge with, or come with 2 bees instead of 3 bees. So then we needed to merge the 2 bees together to then get the hives with 3 bees to get the max efficiency for this farm. So yeah, each nest here has, or each nest or hive here has 3 bees in it. So you can see they're not all out at once, because that's like 5,000 bees. So we don't want that at once. So yeah, those are there, and they get out their own time. The reason why I built it in another, because bees will work 24/7 here while it's chunk loaded, compared to the overworld, because in the overworld they do sleep at night, which you don't want to do, because that will basically cut your rates in half, and that's not good. So yeah, we built it in another. You could also do the same thing with the end. However, the issue with the end is you cannot very easily chunk load it, so that we need to have an actual player there, which we don't really want to do. We want to dig in the nether, something that is a lot harder than the overworld, because not only just the height, all the lava that you have to deal with, and things like that, but let me say it definitely was worth it to do it in the nether here. But yeah, and then same thing here, these drops get then transported to the main storage via the dropper line, and I think we're still actually loading the droppers, the dispensers here, but let's see. So yeah, this farm, obviously you don't want to turn it on until the full dispenser is filled up. Unfortunately, we did do that, so we are going to have these honey bottles in here. It will fix itself technically. So yeah, unfortunately with our case, there's really no easy way to fix it. It's just a pain. We should have just waited. Unfortunately, we didn't think about it until after we turned the farm on, and then that wasn't the best, obviously. Now there is some updates you could do with this, because you do have the flower and azalea now. You could also do that and then fully turn the farm off to where the bees would no longer get out of the hive, which would then therefore lower the MS stress on the server. Same thing here, chunk loader there, and they also have a chunk loader there for the loading of the line itself to then transport the items to the main storage. Now this also gets turned on when apparently it won't get turned on because we didn't power this correctly. So we need to put a block there, and this will get basically turn on once the main farm itself is turned on. We just still need to hook up because we definitely don't want to have this lever over here for that very reason. So yeah, that's actually the full area completely done. This did take a long time, like I said, because of the time it took to get all of the beehives and then merge them and then things like that. Plus we had to dig out this whole area here for each one, which goes from bedrock roof to bedrock floor, which is quite a lot of netherrack, even though it's really only a small area. But it's not too bad, honestly. Definitely better than digging a whole perimeter in the nether. But we will do that at some point in this world. So I definitely do want to experience actually digging a full perimeter in the nether compared to just, using a world eater, which we've all done. We've done multiple times in this server. So as you can see, we've done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We've done 5 perimeters so far in the nether, and we only have a couple more that we actually need to do to then fully finish all the farms that we want to do in this world for the nether. But obviously we'll do some overworld things first before we do that. And yeah, this farm, as you can see, even zoomed out completely, you can still make out that's a honey bottle. That's sort of a little hard to see, but definitely love how this turned out, and it's something quite special for this world that we will definitely get some use out of. Not a lot of use, obviously, because slime is still superior than honey. Personally, I did not record a time lapse for anything that we did here, as most of it was done on stream, unfortunately. I can tell you most of this, the digging part of this was done on stream. I had a long stream to do, so I did that, as you said at the beginning there, and we did a lot of that, and then on and off. This was not done in one session at all. This took quite some time to do, but still turned out really, really nice in the end. And that's it for this episode. Make sure you like, subscribe, all those sorts of things, and I'll see you in the next one.